Picture this. You're walking by the Hudson River in New York City with your family on a warm, beautiful summer evening in the not too distant future. As the breeze caresses your skin, you say to your children as you point to the city's skyline, "That's a very tall and interesting building, and it's upside down. How does that stay up?" And they say to you, "Guess what? The vast majority of these other buildings were probably built but not supervised by African Americans. But this one, the tallest building in America, was designed by a Ghanaian architect from Africa and financed by an African American billionaire property developer, and will be built and managed mostly by African Americans." That, ladies and gentlemen, should fill you with immense pride. That should make you reflect on how far we've come as a race. That should remind us that we can excel in any endeavor we set our minds on. Welcome to Today in African History for January 31st. If there's any video you should share on this channel, this should be the video because it's a metaphor for the heights we can attain when we come together as one. See you on the inside.
There are plans for a new skyscraper to be developed on one of New York City's last plots of unoccupied land. Affirmation Tower will be the first building in Manhattan to be developed, built, and funded by Black and female-owned businesses. The 90-story skyscraper will be located along the Hudson River. In addition to local NAACP offices, the tower will feature a skating rink, at least 2 hotels, an entertainment complex, a rooftop restaurant, and a ballroom. And joining me now is the developer of the Affirmation Tower, Don Peebles. He's the founder, chairman, and CEO of the Peebles Corporation. Don, welcome. Thank you very much for being with us. This truly sounds like a project that would change the New York City skyline. How did you come up with this idea? What does this project mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. First of all, it meets the 2 moments in America right now. One, that we are recovering from a global pandemic that has decimated many aspects of our economy and resulted in numerous job losses around the country. 2, it meets the moment and the request for social and economic justice for African Americans and women and people of color across the board. And so Affirmation Tower affirms the access to the American dream for women and minorities in this country. And it is as important in this country today as, say, the Empire State Building was when it was built coming out of the Great Depression, saying that America is resilient and America's back. And it meets the moment like Freedom Tower did at World Trade Center, where it said America's freedom endures, and we are committed to it. And so this time around, we're going to build back and build it better and be more inclusive.
You mentioned those iconic buildings. I'll just have you elaborate a bit more. What's the significance of the tower being built here in New York City?
Well, I think it's important. If New York City is known for anything around the world, it's known for the skyscrapers around New York City. And the sad thing is that if we look out into the skyline of Manhattan, for example, which is where most of our high-rises are, you don't see any buildings that were built by women developers or women contractors, and you don't see any built by African Americans. And yet New York City is America's most diverse city. So it's important, if we're going to have full access to the American dream, that a building that symbolizes the epicenter of capitalism be inclusive. And so Affirmation Tower does that. And it does it in a very powerful way, the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. So that what it says is that women and people of color are as talented as anyone else, and when given the opportunity, they can achieve greatness.
And it's so interesting to read about the design. Don, what about the architecture itself represents Black culture?
Well, I thought it was important, first of all, that it be a signature and landmark building from the beginning. And we picked David Adjaye, who I've known for a number of years and have worked with in the past, who was the architect for the Museum for African American History and Culture at the Smithsonian in D.C., which is America's most visited museum. And I thought that he should be the person to build this tower of symbolism. And what he did is he took the basic premises of an Afro pick, old African wood picks, and turned it upside down. And if you look at the facade, you will notice that you'll see the precast that is done basically on a reverse pick.
Yeah, we're showing a picture of it right there, and I think a lot of viewers will be able to see that from your description there. You talked about this a moment ago, Don, but you say creating well-paying jobs instead of relying on social programs creates a more inclusive economy. Explain a bit more how Affirmation Tower will do that.
Well, the first thing is that it's 80% African-American owned. One of the major partners in the project as an owner is a woman. And then two, it will be built with a joint venture with America's largest construction company and America's oldest Black-owned construction company that happens to be run by a woman. And so that makes it very different. And we are committed to at least 35% of all contracts across the board, from consultants, architects, to contractors, subcontractors, and the like, be minority and women-owned businesses, because we want to knock down the barriers and set a tone in our industry that all developers should build projects that are inclusive and have opportunities reflective of the population demographics of New York City and America.
Well, the tenants will be minority entrepreneurs. How does the building plan to attract and lease to minorities?
Well, one of the things we're going to do, it's a big building. We're going to have two major hotels that will support and service the Jacob Javits Center, which is an economic engine for New York City, attracting conventions and conferences, and one of the largest exhibition centers in the country. And then we're going to provide office space, one for the NAACP, as well as a cultural center showcasing the history of the civil rights movement as it took place in New York City and the history of the NAACP. And then we're going to have office space for entrepreneurs. We're attracting some diverse tenants, such as a Black Enterprise magazine, who we've spoken to, for example, the Weather Channel, who we've spoken to, run by a good friend, Byron Allen, and many others. But also, we're going to look to attract investment banks and other firms to do business with minority firms and come into our building. But what's exciting is that we're going to have the tallest observation deck in the Western Hemisphere, and it's going to be accessible to the public.
Journey to architecture was not the usual convention. I wasn't brought up in a kind of creative family, and it's in England that I sort of realized that there was this thing called a profession called architecture, and it connected me back to the experiences that I'd had in the journey before getting to England. But architecture, as beautiful as it was, didn't touch me until I realized how much it affected people, not just as a kind of sensation of beauty, but also as a kind of performance of life and a quality of life. My parents were diplomats. Especially the early parts of my life, was very much a very nomadic existence. They were posted to East Africa, then back to West Africa, then North Africa, then the Middle East, before I came to England. So I've always been sort of in different cultures and different spaces from a very early age, hearing different languages, different ways of moving in the world. Architecture and art for me are the same thing. At its best, they're very powerful narratives about our lives. The best artists for me tell me something about my existence, whether profound or even ruse. I don't make any judgment about their usefulness, but I make big sort of appreciation of what artists are able to do, which is beyond words. That they manifest things that are in the world, sometimes complicated or sometimes very simplistic things, in profound ways that allows us to kind of see them better. For me, looking at what artists did in the past, what artists are doing in the present, and imagining what could possibly be in the future, through art mostly, is a profound part of the narrative for me. I think we're in the 21st century where it's more about circular and horizontal systems now. We're no longer about just rising up and going down. But still, to get a skyscraper is a kind of an incredible commission because it's a super complicated thing that's been invented. It's one of the great inventions of the 20th century because of welding and because of the invention of the elevator. So it's a kind of super new topology. And I wanted to make a residential building that really would just make a statement about the kind of emotion of being up in the air, but also this drama of framing the view. I think that architecture has got so obsessed with thinking that if you just make it transparent, you frame the view. And I think we've done it so many times that there's no sensation to it anymore. So I wanted to make a tower where every window meant something in the way that it framed a view. And then I wanted to make a tower which also referenced where it was from, which is the warehouse district on the edge of what was the walled city of the beginnings of New York. The tower is on the wall where the wall was for the enclosure for the city and where those great storage warehouses were for the goods that were coming from the New World. And if we went back 150 years, it would have just been a sea of vaulted arches. And I felt like there was something about this powerful iconography that I didn't want to forget out of this part of the East River, that this was its real origin. Undoubtedly, the most significant project that's really propelled and changed my career is the National Museum of African American History and Culture on the Mall. I was a young architect, but I was given the task to design and deliver this project. That was my role and my office's role in the project. I didn't do many things between that time because it consumed so much, but I learned so much. And when it opened with Barack Obama before he left the White House, it kind of felt like something had been achieved. It was a kind of euphoric moment for me. I took my mother. I was crying at the opening, watching all this theater. I disappeared. It wasn't a celebration of me. I was just a character in the audience. And suddenly the world took over, and this building started to have this life. And it was a really profound moment for me. But also, it was profound for me, and I then went back to my day job. But then I suddenly realized that the world also took notice of this building beyond just it being aesthetic, pleasurable, light-filled. The signature element is this, what I call the corona, which has become the term for it. This corona, which references West Africa as a way of talking about the story of making a building and what it means. It references the shrines of Benin, probably one of the greatest kingdoms that developed in Africa before the encounter with Europe and the kind of colonization that happened. And in those shrine houses were these extraordinary caryatids, which had these incredible heads with these ziggurating forms. And that was a crown to talk about a story of a great event or a great person. And I felt that this little moment was a little piece of magic that was forgotten by a lot of people because now Benin was also destroyed by the British. It was burnt because they thought the city was too extraordinary and didn't fit the narrative of the sort of, uncivilized people that we had to conquer. So my process in was a little piece of magic that was forgotten by a lot of people because now Benin was also destroyed by the British. It was burnt because they thought the city was too extraordinary and didn't fit the narrative of the sort of, uncivilized people that we had to conquer. So my process, in the end, I think, as I consciously kind of work on what is my manifesto as a series of words, is that architecture is a story. Like all things that we do as a species, we differentiate ourselves by creating dreams and stories. And it dawned on me that architecture is really another story. It's a way of marking and talking about our aspirations and hopes. So in what I do, the methodology to every project I make, whether it's an object or a building, is to find a narrative. And the narrative is not just based on my own kind of fantasy of how I'd like to just be, but it's based on going back into history, coming into the present, and projecting into the future, and finding moments within those three important sort of conditions that are our absolute inescapable existence, that make sense or have been avoided or need to be amplified or need to be sharpened as the guiding drivers for the way I make work. For an architect, there's something just deeply magical about the process of imagination and research and the feeling of form, and then to be in it. To then, because in a way there's this kind of magical scaling where, to begin with, it's this small and you're this big. In terms of what it is, it's just a kind of series of electrons going off in your head. So it's like not even measurable, but it's an idea, and you're this big. And then suddenly it becomes this big, and then you're this small in it. And so there's this kind of magical like shifting of, and the electricity and the power of that is addictive. I still can't get over it. And it's why I'm so excited by architecture. I think there are doubts always in the evolution of a creative person. And in a way, I think it's the fuel. I think the moment I don't have doubts, I'm probably dead. I think the doubt makes me question things and question whether I want to do things. And in resolving the doubt, I'm able to kind of move forward. But I think that I'm very comfortable with doubt. I wasn't when I was young. I felt really troubled by uncertainty. I now thrive. I love uncertainty. I kind of feel like it explodes the most extraordinary opportunity. But it's a different lens, a different eye looking at the world now.
In the realm of architecture, Sir David Frank Adjaye stands as a luminary, a visionary craftsman, shaping the skylines of cities and challenging conventional design norms. Born September 22nd, 1966 in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, Africa, Adjaye's journey from the son of a Ghanaian diplomat to becoming a knighted architect with global recognition is a narrative of creativity, innovation, and societal impact. Adjaye's story unfolds against a backdrop of diplomatic travels, cultural richness, and an early exposure to diverse landscapes. As the son of a Ghanaian diplomat, he traversed Tanzania, Egypt, Yemen, and Lebanon before settling in Britain at the age of 9. This kaleidoscope of experiences laid the foundation for a unique perspective that would later characterize his architectural masterpieces. Graduating with a Bachelor of Arts degree in architecture from London South Bank University in 1990, Adjaye's talent was quickly acknowledged as he secured the ROIBA Bronze Medal for the best undergraduate design project in the United Kingdom. His academic journey culminated in 1993 with a master's degree from the Royal College of Art, setting the stage for an illustrious career. The early 1990s marked Adjaye's emergence as a formidable force in architecture. Winning the ROIBA Bronze Medal Award in 1993 catapulted him into the spotlight, showcasing his prowess even as a recent graduate. His contributions as a unit tutor at the Architectural Association and lecturer at the Royal College of Art further solidified his place in the architectural pantheon. Knighted in the 2017 New Year Honors For his exceptional services to architecture, Adjaye's accolades continued to accumulate. The 2021 Royal Gold Medal, a testament to a lifetime's impact on the field, made history as he became the first African recipient and one of the youngest to receive this prestigious honor. The Order of Merit in 2022 further underscored his enduring influence. Adjaye's architectural repertoire weaves a rich tapestry of innovation, seamlessly blending functionality with aesthetic brilliance. His early projects, including the Whitechapel Idea Store, Dirty House, and Glass House, foreshadowed his penchant for pushing boundaries in residential design. The Bernie Grant Arts Center and the Stephen Lawrence Center in 2007 marked a transition to larger scale projects, hinting at the grandeur that would define his future endeavors. The pivotal moment in Adjaye's career came with the commission to design the Museum of Contemporary Art, Denver, in 2007. His first foray into museum design, the building's architecture aimed to dissolve the barriers between the cityscape and the museum's interiors. This marks the beginning of Adjaye's exploration into the transformative power of space. However, it was the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. that catapulted Adjaye to global acclaim. Selected as the lead architect for this groundbreaking project, his design, adorned with a crown motif inspired by Yoruba sculpture, opened its doors in 2016. The museum was hailed as the cultural event of the year by the New York Times, cementing Adjaye's status as an architectural maestro. His portfolio extends across the globe, from the Moscow School of Management, Skolkovo, to the Ishti Foundation in Beirut, Lebanon. Each project bears the hallmark of Adjaye's commitment to transcending conventional norms and infusing cultural richness into architectural spaces. Adjaye's creativity extends beyond traditional architectural realms, encompassing collaborations with contemporary artists, installations, and exhibitions. His collaborations with artists like Chris Ofili and Olafur Eliasson showcase a commitment to bridging the gap between architecture and art. The Upper Room, created in collaboration with Chris Ofili, sparked nationwide debate and was acquired by Tate Britain. His collaboration with Olafur Eliasson on the light installation Your Black Horizon at the 2005 Venice Biennale exemplifies Adjaye's ability to intertwine diverse artistic disciplines. In addition to his architectural prowess, Adjaye's engagement with academia, including hosting a BBC radio program and co-authoring the BBC's Dream Spaces television series, reflects our commitment to demystifying architecture for a broader audience. His participation in Manifesta 7 and the Gwangju Biennale further underscores his role as a cultural ambassador. In recent years, Adjaye's architectural brilliance continues to shine with projects like the National Cathedral of Ghana, Princeton University Art Museum, and the Abrahamic Family House in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. These projects not only redefine urban landscapes, but also embody Adjaye's commitment to promoting values of mutual respect and coexistence. Adjaye remains an architectural luminary, continually contributing to the global architectural discourse. His recent works, including the completion of the Cherry Gross Memorial Pavilion and plans for the W.E.B. Du Bois Museum Complex, highlight his unwavering commitment to the transformative power of architecture.